Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to everyone who was with us yesterday, and welcome to all the new faces who are joining today. My name is Kawthar Al-Arab, and I'm the Programs Manager at British Council, looking after cultural and arts programs for Bahrain. This morning, we're looking at the role of cultural organizations in the sector. Yesterday, we opened with discussing ecosystems. And I think today, between our speakers, we have the pillars of those, between the speakers and the audience, we have the main components of the arts ecosystem in Bahrain. My panelists this morning need no introduction, but just to start, we have Her Excellency Sheikha Hala Al-Khalifa, practicing artist and Director General of the Culture and Arts Directorate at the Authority of Culture, who plays an active role in promoting arts and culture on many levels, which we will come to discuss more later on in the discussion. We have Sheikha Al-Khalifa, member of the Arts for the National Arts Council, educator and co-owner of Artly, with an interesting background combining both arts and psychology and social practice. We have our convener, our gatherer, Bayan Kanoo, director of Riwaq Gallery since 1998, with 24 years experience in providing a platform, sparking conversations, and creating new moments in the art sector. So welcome to all the panelists.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. As I said, between the panelists and yourselves, we're looking at the pillars of the ecosystem. And in this discussion, we want to explore the role of each of those organizations in supporting artists and creating new opportunities in the sector. So I want to start with Sheikha Hala. As someone who you wear two hats, so you're a practicing artist and at the same time you're an art school graduate and alongside your official role in the authority. So what is your take on creating opportunities for artists through your work, and how does that play out?
Thank you very much, Kawthar. I think I'd like to first of all say good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for being here. Before talking about myself, my practice, or my professional work, I'd like to say a couple of words of tribute to Bayan, who has been a dear friend to me for many, many years. I have to say to all of you, my first exhibition ever in Bahrain was at Riwaq Gallery. So I think Bayan has nurtured a lot of the creative talents, the creativity in Bahrain, the artists, and gave one-to-one advice. I will not forget a moment where she came to my studio in my house. Yes, that has to be publicized. So she walked into my studio, and I was young at the time, maybe, I don't know, 17, 18, or maybe a bit older. Anyway, I forgot, I'm very bad with years and numbers. But she walked in, she looked at the body of work, and she said, yeah, that's good, that's good, that's good. And I had a piece of canvas with a dangling cloth. I was trying to experiment. So she looked and she's like, what's that? No, that has to be removed. So, Bayan, of course, looking as beautiful as she does today, a very elegant woman, grabbing the piece of cloth from the canvas and putting it off. And I was horrified, to be honest. I have never faced anything like that, but it was a moment I'll never forget. And there was authority and vision into what she was doing, and she absolutely thought that the work looked so much better without that. So I really respect that, and I love these challenges, and I really, I think every one of us needs that little tug, that little push, that little insight into distorting something you're so used to. So being here again in this wonderful historic building that is revived now thanks to Bayan and her wonderful team and the efforts to bring this space back to life, the garden, the home, every gallery that we see here placed. I walk in here and there's light and freshness and engagement, and this is all thanks to this wonderful lady. Sorry, that was a very long introduction, but briefly, I, as a person, consider myself extremely lucky because as a practicing artist, I feel I was blessed, number one, to be involved in cultural organization throughout my professional career. And for myself, I believe that I knew from a very young age that yes, I am an artist, this is where my heart beats, but I was not going to be an artist that sits in their studio producing work and not being engaged with the community. So I'm extremely lucky. Throughout my career, I've managed to be involved with wonderful teams that brought many ideas to life, whether it's publication, exhibitions, setting up new gallery spaces, creating programs that, there's a word that I love to use and I'll probably use it a lot, the spark. Because we're all here wanting to just create that little spark, hi Rashid. And Rashid is a wonderful example of Rashid Arifi, a dear friend and someone who I have a lot of respect for. Sorry, I'm highlighting you because I thought of spark. And you as an artist, I think you spark up with every idea you bring to us as an audience. His latest piece was gifted to His Majesty. I saw the pictures yesterday, and just opening the news and seeing you and seeing the wonderful piece that you have created, I'll talk a little bit about it because this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's the spark of creativity, the spark of creating something unique, something not repetitive. And I think Rashid has a great portfolio with different examples of how this spark can affect us. This is how the inspiration goes. And just to highlight the piece that Rashid was gifted to His Majesty yesterday, was a beautiful, round, very abstract shape. It was red color and it resembles the vibrations of the sound waves of the Bahrain National Anthem. So when Rashid was talking to me about this piece, this is where this light happens, because he spoke, I felt, and then the piece was there to say it all. And I believe, being an artist or being involved with the community, I feel these are the ideas that keep us going. And I think every one of us need to sit down and reflect and see what sort of things can we add to our visual, visual memory or visual present. I can go on and on about stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikha. You're right, it's all about inspiration and getting that momentum, right? And I want to move on from there to Sheikha Dawa. I think a lot of people here are very curious about the new role of the Arts Council. So how do you feel, or how do you think the Arts Council will work to empower artists in Bahrain?
Thank you, Kawthar. Good morning, everyone. Very proud to be part of the National Arts Council. Sheikha spoke about the spark. It's about finding those sparks, I believe, and giving them opportunities. So how do you give people opportunities? I believe you empower them. And if you look at the national decree from His Majesty the King, it's all about giving these opportunities through education, through training, through getting in exhibitions from abroad and from locally as well. I was lucky enough to speak to Bayan earlier, just talking how we need to and we all unite together to create an effort that will serve all Bahrainis. So the role of the National Council, as dictated by the decree, is to provide opportunities. We're a supportive body. So the efforts are there. By all means, they're already there. It's about us providing a supportive role and acting as a form of a body that encourages, that creates, and as we go along, we'll see more and more efforts, but together, we all need to be working together, not as individual bodies that are not linked together.
Yeah, and that's what an ecosystem is, right? You work all together, hand in hand, otherwise it doesn't function. It needs everyone to be moving and working at the same time. So Bayan, I want to go to you there. What do you see is the role of the independent organizations in coming together, collaborating, and moving that forward as well?
Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being here with us today. And I'm really excited that we are sitting in this kind of a panel, because this is where things can, we can pull a thread together and we can definitely move forward. And all that we were talking yesterday is about the ecosystem. So yes, we can work, and whatever we do, it can be like kind of sometimes dust in the wind, as they say. It just sometimes can fly, can just stay, can build, whatever, but it would be better and faster collaborating, reaching with each other. And like, you know, with having the authority was working with us all the time, and like, you know, giving advice from here, you know, supporting us in liaising with many things, but we needed somebody to really kind of brainstorming together. This is what we needed. So yes, we can work, we do a lot of work. So here, this at the Riwaq, we've created a kind of people can hang around, can feel, have a community, artist community. So we're trying to be very much diverse, and we're trying to also add the design as a big element as well, because it's kind of in our daily life. This is what we are hoping, education, because we always believed of education, but as we don't have a kind of specialized art school here, we thought, okay, we're not going to wait until things will really come and being created, because there have been many efforts, years and years, and they start with like a section and then a department and then but no degree as such. So what we're trying to really do is kind of create this kind of alternative education. And there are, that what we were talking about yesterday and today, and what we're offering here is all about working with visiting artists, working with like kind of workshops, working in collectives. This is really something naturally it used to be a hobby. But I think in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it used to be naturally. But now everything is becoming institutionalized. So even before it was okay to be a gallery, but later on it just needed to go further. We needed, the minute I used to travel and see and understand what is going on in the world, I understand there is like a kind of institutions and you really need to go into the official role. But as being an independent, I didn't feel we can do that. What do you want?
It's on.
On? It's off? Sorry. Okay, no, okay. So basically what we need is to create this kind of a loop between us. When I used to travel and I met William in one of the trips, and I was impressed with the structure they had. The structure was kind of working with international institutions, but when I used to go to somebody and tell them I want to, like, you know, the Ford Foundation, like funding buddies, because here we have the natural support. You know, it's like, I know you, you're good, come, let's just take you to somewhere else. But it's not an institutionalized system. So, and I was like meeting with like the Dutch authority and the whatever, all in the art scene. They also tell me, also, how are you structured? I mean, here I am alone, and it was like something kind of not accepted in the international system. So it always needs a kind of a person and a committee and a whatever. I used to have many friends and supporters or whatever, but I didn't think of going to that level of structuring it. I always saw the obstacles.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, it wasn't accepted. So who are you? Who is going to be your chair? Is going to be? So it was a struggle. But like I felt right now, it's like we can show who we are without having the exact system they have. We can create our own system. That's how I felt, and we are doing it by having these kind of workshops, by reaching out to you both. Just this is by itself is a success.
But I feel you're a bit hard on yourself.
That's who I am.
Yeah, but I also want to give you another outlook into everything you're saying, and you wanted to create more structure. Bayan, since the early 90s,
98, we started.
98, you have created a structure, whether you know it or you don't.
You have created an atmosphere. I'm not here to praise you, although you deserve all the praising, but I want to be realistic as well. And I know that there are many names here, young artists that have, grown with you through your workshop, through the work you do within the community. I think we set up our own model here in Bahrain. We don't have to follow the Dutch model.
Sure.
We do not have to follow the Ford Foundation or institution.
100%.
We're smaller. We have a different character, and so number one, I do not want you to be hard on yourself because you have worked in this field for so long and you have created magic.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's one thing. On another note, I think, as Sheikha was saying, now there is more structure within your institutions, similar institutions in Bahrain that work very closely with art scene, promoting and giving opportunities and nurturing and delivering workshops and critiques and all of that. And now with the National Arts Council coming in to also create that body of, how do I call it, of structure?
Advising and
advisory and supporting. And I feel
we
that
need it. We definitely need
absolutely. And I'm talking with the cultural institution where you have the infrastructure, you have the venues, you have the. But I feel that this synergy will definitely create a lot of opportunities for everyone here and everyone listening to us today. So.
We are basically, what we are doing is all of us in our own space, but that's what we are hoping, and that's what Sheikha is like. Everybody is here and everybody wants to know, what is this? What's the magic we're going to break? So basically, we are hoping, it's like all of them young artists, everybody was asking.
So that's in itself, I know it's a responsibility. As soon as the National Arts Council was announced, everyone put like all their hopes, like he said, okay, this is something that's going to reinvent, revitalize, but the art scene is already there. There's a lot of work that's already been established. Of course, look at you two. You've established it very well. It's about building upon that, and it's being a supportive body. It's providing the linkages. And if you go back to the decree, it's about the opportunities. So opportunities for developments, for institutionalized structured developments, having technical workshops, residencies as well, giving opportunities to the young to go on for residencies, bringing in programs from abroad and localizing them, like you mentioned, Sheikha, not exactly adopting it or importing it, because importing any form of model does not have an effect as much. You need to localize it to what us in Bahrain need and how we are as a nation. So, of course, it is a responsibility, and I believe with the members that we have, headed by Sheikh Rashid, who him in itself is an institution.
Inspiration.
An inspiration, yes. So with his vision and the team that has been assembled through artists, established artists such as Abbas Musawi and Fakhru, they will all provide the different elements that I believe with, of course, working with you and all the other elements will allow us to move forward together. And we need to take into consideration those that are not within this ecosystem that should be incorporated, like the universities, the schools. Those are the ones that look up to us and want a way in. I remember being an artist, trying to find a way in. Like I'm looking, how can I get into the art scene? I went to Riwaq in the 338 and I have a small booth in one of the markets that you had, yes. So giving those opportunities, communicating with them, working at a university as a lecturer, all we do is theoretical work. If we can give them the linkages with the industry, it would really benefit from being part of an exhibition, being part of an event, experiencing it. That's how they will actually learn. So creating a new form of ecosystem with all these elements, I believe we can really move forward. It is a responsibility of the National Arts Council, but I believe we can honestly do something together.
Maybe I want to reflect a little bit on also how the arts education was very different in the 70s, for instance, because there are several Bahraini artists who actually got a scholarship to study art in Iraq, in Egypt, in different institutions regionally. Now, for the past 8 years, I have been writing to the Ministry of Education, asking them to please, can you revisit those openings
not only for artists, but for museum studies, archaeology, and unfortunately, because back in the 70s, we can name a couple of names that actually went and studied abroad, like Ahmed Bakr, for instance. Ahmed Bakr, Khalifa, in Russia.
Adnan
Ahmed in France, Abdurrahim Sharif in France. So there are several names that actually went to international institutions, studied abroad, came back. I wish that can really happen through also the council. Maybe this is something that we can join forces.
That's what exactly.
And try to get these openings back. I mean, we're in the process at the cultural institution. I think it's a surprise, but I'll share this a little bit with you. I feel it's an intimate setting, but please don't quote me. It's still a work in progress. We're working very hard to create an affiliation with a beautiful arts academy in Italy. So if that affiliation happens, then this academy will actually open here in Bahrain, and they will teach, I think, 6 disciplines, 3 classical and 3 modern disciplines of art, hopefully to receive a degree. So I think if this little baby sees the light, then the art scene will really benefit here in Bahrain. Still at the very early stages. I'll fill you in.
Definitely, especially because the mandate does take scholarships and it does have opportunities, and as well as academic studies. So we've been conducting a few studies that will benefit.
Just to add on this, yesterday in the conversation, while Nof Khunji was kind of moderating the discussion, we brought the idea of how Saudi Arabia just all of a sudden it just kind of flourished. But it didn't come out of nowhere, okay? It was kind of the scholarships. She mentioned basically the scholarships was a big impact.
And Edge of Arabia.
Definitely.
I think that was the main boom.
But the Edge of Arabia, as I was looking into the history, and I said, what's the difference between Bahrain and what's the difference between Saudi Arabia and why? And they have the Art Council there. And what is their role? But actually, when the Art Council started, and the collaboration started, this moment made this kind of the impact that 2139, and after the 2139, universities, schools came on board. They used to do visits, and the program was really broad. So we do, you do programs, Sheikh Ibrahim Center, they do programs, we do programs, and other institutions, they do programs, but there is no synergy. And I think what made it all there is a decision, and it's kind of linking it all together that can bring a very big highlight. So yes, as Sheikha, you mentioned that there are so many things happening, but we're aiming and hoping, and everybody has their kind of wishes that to understand how a body can pull us all together and unite us in an ecosystem, hopefully.
Exactly.
And I think it's also about what comes next. So there are a lot of, as you said, workshops and initiatives here and there, and artists do engage, but then they don't know what's next, what comes next.
I really believe that for myself or for any practicing artist, I feel that we really need to be critiqued harder.
Yeah, and I think this was
I reflected on the story of Bayan, pulling that cloth on my hands. It's very important.
It was a harsh way, but
no, it's very important.
And then, it is.
Also a personal story. I think when I'm pushed, and when I'm disturbed, and when I'm bothered, is where I'm going to sit, reflect, and create something better. Yes, I believe that all of us here with harsher, I'm not a harsh person myself. I've taught art, but I want to just open and do something more. I had a Iraqi artist, Mahmoud Al-Abeidi, I'm sure you know him, and he was like a mentor to me. And on a personal level, I do miss that mentorship. I miss when someone walks into my studio, looks at the work, and really gives me a hell critique session. This is the best, and I feel like every one of us, I'm urging younger generation of artists, even my generation, older, to keep pushing the boundaries,
It's really important.
And
So
be
we go
open.
to so
Be
many
open to
exhibitions
that.
and be open. I
So
think
you're having feedback.
like
and
for instance,
listening.
Bayan said something really important. She says, well, at the authority we do the fine arts exhibition every year. It's beautiful. There's a legacy behind it. I feel so proud as a Bahraini artist that the evolvement of the art scene in my country has been from the early 70s until the present day. On a yearly basis, there's an exhibition, there's a pillar. Now, whatever we have in terms of comments about it, good, bad, the consistency is incredible. It makes me proud, number one. Number two, I feel that Bayan, when we spoke, she said, you know what? What's missing is that after this annual exhibition, you need to bring all the artists together. You need to have a critique session with everyone. And these are the exact comments that I need, right? Because I'll set up, I'll do the curation, the catalog, all these elements, and then you need this nudge. You need someone to tell you, oh, you know what, this is missing, or you need to do this. This is, I believe, is very important. So also an open invitation to every one of you. We are all very accessible. So if you feel that there's something missing or a link that needs to be, a circle that needs to be completed, write to us, call us, let us know.
As I know here, there is somebody who told me they tried to give the book personally to Sheikha May, and then they gave the secretary, and they never heard back, and they never, I don't know what, and they never. And I said, and he's sitting here, and I said, well, actually, they are really, really appreciating all of these things, but maybe they didn't see it. Maybe they were busy in the middle of something that's really, and then it just slips away. So basically going again, but also our pride doesn't allow us. So we really want to make something that it is easy, accessible, and also maybe it's easy to come to me, and then from me I can reach out to you. Maybe it's a little bit kind of a platform.
So we really need to create this platform, and what we are hoping to get in this, as the Standard Charter was like, we were supported by them and we were lucky enough to have this space. We are hoping there's another building here, there is the tennis court here, there is the basically the garden, the water garden is going to reopen, and this pride of this area, which also research, we need to find research, we need to have a build-up. So we really need to research about this area, what is the history of this area, what is we have with a kind of 70s beauty, so we can have many layers, but here is one thing, easy, accessible, and then have residency, having the academy can host, come visit here, but also is how do we take it from there? Okay, we created something. Then how do we come to you? How do we come to the Art Council? How do we create this kind of opportunities to all of these artists, So maybe...
I think the key word here is collaboration. Once you collaborate and the linkages that you mentioned, and easy communication between all the different elements, that would create that, and sustainability. You want something that is sustained, that would have benefits as well. And touching upon criticism, I remember an exercise I did during my studies where I had to stand up and show my work, and for 3 minutes the whole class or area would just criticize your work, and you had to take it. Coming from this part of the world, we're not used to criticism, as we like to spare people's feelings in a way. So that was a cultural shock, but it really benefited me and helped me grow as an artist and as a practice. So adopting that mindset is really important. It's a bit about bringing that.
So, Kawthar, I wanna be asking you now, as you're being in the British Council, and then allowing and supporting, basically I have to say the role of the British Council and the American Embassy, how important was it? Because we have a kind of a mindset, when it comes from out of our community, acknowledgement that it is something very important. So, whether you know it or not, but actually you gave us a kind of, so we said, oh yeah, the British Council is supporting us, the American Embassy is supporting us, the institution, but you have a vision, and you didn't come out of nowhere to support anything if you don't feel that it is going to really reach out into something. So,
so as an organization, we're about cultural relations and working together in essence. And you'll remember even Nexus, how did it start? It was
The reason
with
is-
conversations.
The reason
I
is
started
Nexus
with Hassan.
started because they said, we have something, we can support you if you have an education program.
Yeah.
So you see how things works.
Yeah.
It's a kind of, it's like a kind of,
Yeah.
just like going here.
Marble
and, you know,
balls.
Yeah, it's a marble ball, just like going between all of us, and we have to really know how to play it.
Yeah.
We really need to know the rules of the game.
Yeah. But we can't play alone. We need our creatives to allow us to play further, to explore further, and to work.
But
on
we
it.
are also, maybe sometimes people feel kind of intimidated. This is where we want to be kind of, so maybe like, you know, having you both today and this casual and kind of reaching out to people and like, you know, sitting and casually talking, this will create this kind of a friendly relationship and atmosphere, which I think that will benefit all of us.
And I think I always emphasize the power of conversations, because if we're not talking to each other, I will not know what you're doing, you will not know what I'm doing, and we won't be able to come together
And then I say you
create
copied
those
me.
opportunities.
And I will say you copied me.
Because
We are all thinking,
yeah.
we are all
In
thinking
the
the
same
same.
context.
It's the time and the era where things are happening, and I say, oh, I was supposed to do it. They did it before me.
Yes.
They copied me. So this is a kind of also
I think
something.
yesterday we were saying that we have small town syndrome, right? Where
Yes.
we're all very close to each other, but we also think there's one opportunity, and if someone takes it, that's it. Ooh, everyone else is shook,
Yeah.
right? And it's only through talking to each other that we realize we all want the same thing, and at the same time, we all have different things that we bring to the table, right? And I think that's where, as you said earlier, the magic happens and the spark comes from that moment. And Nexus was a child of a moment like this, where we were talking
That's
and
the
discussing.
comes. That's where also what
We
is
were
needed.
checking what's missing.
I think that we have a few people here, they took their mixes. And I think the exhibition we had, we started with it. Maybe it wasn't the strongest exhibition, but it was an opportunity for them to express themselves. It was an opportunity also to see that each one is different, although they studied the same thing. They all took the same course, or they all discussed the same things, but the reflection on each person is completely different. And understanding that, yes, the British Council, they have a very big mandate internationally and very strong in education, but also they look at the countries as like a kind of, this is a kind of rich country, they don't need support. They will focus on India, they will focus on Egypt, they will focus, but that was a struggle because we were in Bahrain, when I used to go to anywhere and I told them I'm from Bahrain, oh, you're from the Gulf, you're rich, you don't need support. Basically, it's not about the money, it's where the money is going and what it is, where it is invested. So we can't keep on complaining, no money, nothing. There is everything.
There is.
There is everything, but how to think,
Utilize.
organize, and structure it and work together. So I just want to see what kind of support and collaboration we can do as a kind of structure. Yes, all what we said, we know it, but what are the practicalities? What is like, do we do application? Does it come through us, through the authority, through, you are at the university also teaching. What do you see for us?
And if I can add, because we will have to open to questions from the audience soon, we're running out of time. If I can add as well, how can we widen the scope of the educational provision, since we're discussing education? I think there's a lot of focus in what is available on visual arts, and what else can we support? What else can we do?
Yeah.
You want to go first? Your eyes sparkled.
Yes. I sparked, but then I reflected. So if you have something,
Let's go for it.
In terms of education, what more we could do?
Yeah, I think widening the scope. Yes, education, not just visual arts, but
Right,
yes.
definitely. I think it's about studying the landscape first. What's available in Bahrain? There are some talents that are not out there, and there are some fields that can be developed. Like I said, not just the visual arts. We have a lot of talented people in different fields. We even have like wood carving. We have people who are interested. Of course, the sculpture industry has been on for years and years since performing arts. And if you see Sheikh Rashid's visits, the first one was the performing arts society, and then to the contemporary art. So we are reaching out to all the different fields and then seeing where we can develop and how to develop all of them. And I think it's about giving the opportunities and announcing them, like you said, like what's the practicalities of it. It's about stating, even if it's the first one, and then the second one, and the third one. And in the coming months, we will definitely see this coming up with the council, inshallah.
You know why I sparked? I thought, okay, so the most difficult job is to work for a cultural institution because you're working around the clock. You're at the office in the morning, and in the evening you're at an exhibition opening, you're at a conference, you're at a theatre production, you're at a poetry reading. You know, I sparked a little bit because I was feeling, because I'm working in this institution, I feel that there are so many opportunities throughout the year for knowledge and inspiration and being able to connect to culture. And what saddens me, and I'll be very honest, is that all these programs are taking place, but unfortunately, the creatives, the youth are not accessing these programs. Because I'm an artist, it's not only going to an art exhibition that will inspire me. It's going to an art exhibition, it's going to a theater performance, it's going to a concert for music, it's going to listen to a lecture by somebody who's giving a talk on archaeology. I believe that this sort of knowledge that's available and accessible here in Bahrain, free of charge. 90% of all the programs we look after are free of charge. How lucky are we? Really,
maybe
being in Bahrain.
Maybe it's not very good. Maybe it's not very good. They want to pay. They want to feel that they're struggling.
These talks, for instance, the talks that happen on a regular basis at the museum. So there's a scholar, he's talking about archaeology. Now every one of us, the Bahrainis who are living and breathing this land, isn't it beautiful just to add knowledge on what your land is? Archaeology, the discoveries, what's in this site, what's in that site. This is knowledge, right? But when you nurture it further and further, you get inspired by this person or that, it will automatically bounce into your creative work and will make you stronger. And your subject will be more refined, more true, more. So this is just to say that I also don't want to be hard on what we are offering but the attendance needs to be heightened and the interest and the time. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I think also maybe approaching the artist and like not announcing it in the typical way. Also the open call and you do these programs, but we have a system. So we really need to change our system somehow, and we really need to open it to different way of maybe we create a kind of for the artist. Like the archaeology is like something really good, but I'm interested, but I don't come. Oh, maybe it's too sophisticated for me. Maybe it is so. There's a kind of fear. Today we brought the translator. It's not an easy. Not very easy.
Speaking about translation, I really feel we had to say this talk in Arabic. Good.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, at least we are trying to speak on the two languages, basically. I wanted to, but basically it's the.
Don't worry, it's just the.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is like what I'm trying to say, we are doing it. It's a challenge, but at least we don't want to give it to only certain kind of people, only this English-speaking people, only the people. We speak languages, but okay, how good do we speak it? Do we understand it or not? So basically, we need to come out in a different.
It hurts a lot. It's like it hits me on a nerve. I spoke in English, and then as I was starting to speak, I felt like, okay, أنا عربية بحرينية 90% من اللي قاعدين عرب وبحرينيين كان المفروض تكون لغتي هي اللغة العربية. فأنا أعتذر منكم جميعا، بس لما قعدت وحسيت إن ما كنت عارفة إن إذا في ترجمة أو ما في، بس اللغة الإنجليزية خذت مسرى الحوار والحديث.
لكن نرجع مرة ثانية حتى بيننا وبين بعض نفكر إن لغتنا إذا إحنا ما اعتنينا فيها وما تكلمنا فيها وافتخرنا بكل هالإرث اللي عندنا ما حد يتكلم فيها ونصير إحنا بس نسخة ما أقلل من أهمية الحوار والحديث واللغة ولا أقلل من أهمية جهود البريتش كونسل في دعم مثل هاي الحركة، لكن لغتنا مرة ثانية باللغة العربية.
لا لهذا اليوم كان التحدي اولا تجيبين ترانزليتر مسهله، شلون يتكلمون مع شنو السيستم، حاولنا نلقي حلول بارخص الحلول طبعا دائما ارخص الحلول، بس اخذنا يعني احنا كنا محظوظين كفايه انه الاخ ابراهيم هنا ويانا والمترجمه الفاضله ويانا، لانه هم شافوا اكو شيء، شافوا انه يقدرون يدعمون المكان ونزلوا السعر، يعني كانه احنا غير ربحي، فبيسكلي في تعاون، الناس بيهم خير. اكيد كلنا مع بعض، يعني حتى الفيديو بعد قالوا احنا كانت افورد يعني انه البادجت هلقه، بس اذا لازم نحط التارجت مالنا عالي، فحطينا التارجت، حطينا اللغه، حطينا الدوكيومنتيشن، لانه هاي المشاكل اللي احنا نعاني منها، اللغه، التوثيق، البحث، فعلى الاقل اوكي بدينا نحلها، نبدي، فالسيستم اللي موجود كل شيء حلو، بس يمكن نحتاج نصيغه بصياغه ثانيه، يمكن نحتاج الاكسس الى بطريقه ثانيه، فهذا بدينا نحط حل وحلين وان شاء الله مع بعض نقدر.
ان شاء الله.
نفتح للأودينس المجال. Any questions from the audience? One more.
بس لاحظت من الكلمات اللي بتردد التعاون، وهذا الشيء لازم نبني عليه. صح. كل اللي قاعد نقوله ترد حق التعاون اللي هو الكولابوريشن. ان شاء الله. ان شاء الله. ان شاء الله.
مرحبا، صباح الخير. طبعا سعيد بوجود الجميع. يبدو اني حضرت كثير من الجلسات طوال 3 عقود من الزمن حول مفهوم الفنون، أهمية التعاون إلى آخره. تطوير اللوحة والمنتوجة، تطوير الفنان، الرقي بالمستقبل. لكن لم أجد يوم ما في أي من هذه الفعاليات يتم التطرق إلى أهمية القراءة، أهمية اطلاع الفنان، وأهمية خلق، وأعتقد خلوها بين قوسين، شلون نخلق جيل، مو جيل يعني أو أشخاص على الأقل إنه يستطيعون الكتابة في مجال الفنون. وهذه البلد هذا الغني الممتد حقب كلها، ما عندنا أحد يكتب في مجال الفنون، معقول؟ ما في يا جماعة.
يمكن تدريس هسه.
هذا اللي أنا لما سمعت إنه يعني مؤتمر نهج التعليم والى اخره، وانتم ما قصرتون تتكلمون حول هذا الموضوع، ورد في بالي هذا السؤال.
نعم.
يعني لدرجه انه حتى التوثيق نرجع بعض الاحيان الى ناس من برا، خبرات اجنبيه ليوثقوا تاريخ الحركه التشكيليه. فاعتقد مسؤوليه الجميع هذه، مسؤوليه المؤسسات الخاصه متمثله بالجاليريات، الوزاره، المجلس الوطني الثقافي. ايضا قبل كل شيء مسؤوليه الفنانين ايضا. الشيخ هلا طرقت الى امر غايه الاهميه، انه الوزاره تتيح كثير من البرامج وشبه مجانيه والى اخره. المشكله مش في البرامج، المشكله في الفنانين نفسهم. ان ما لهم طبعا، وكانما صناعه اللوحه بحاجه الى ثقافه بصريه تتعلق باللوحه، وهذه مساله جدا جدا خطيره.
بس حلو سؤالك، بس ابي ادخل معك. يعني مثلا احنا في الثقافه نعمل على برامج ورش للشعر، ورش مثلا كتابة القصة القصيرة. لكن شكرا جزيلا حضرتك نبهتني ان احنا لم نطرح اي برنامج للحديث حول النقد الفني ابدا، ولا في برنامج واحد على طول هالسنوات. ربما استاذ بيان اللي تفضلت فيه وقالت ان ارجو ان يكون هناك جلسه نقديه بعد كل معرض سنوي يستفيدون منها الشباب بخبرات الاساتذه الكبار اللي موجودين. هاي نقطه جدا مهمه، لكن انا اعدك ان نبني برنامج يعتمد على استقطاب نقاد من العالم العربي ومن الغرب للحديث حول موضوع النقد الفني والكتابه في الفنون. اوكي ان شاء الله. عندنا اسعد عرابي مثلا الله يعطيه الصحه والعافيه، هل هو مثلا يعني
هذه لكل حادثة حديث.
اكشن وومن.
يعني احتاج منكم بعض يعني بعض المقترحات خبرتكم، اذا كان هناك يعني احد معين تودون ان ياتي الى البحرين ويقيم معنا قليلا
ما اعتقد ورشه وحدها سهله، لكن ستراكشر نفكر انه شلون كل الاشياء تصير، بس وين احنا رايحين؟ شنو التراكم؟
ورش الكتابه بنظري كانت رائعه، ورش كتابه الروايه القصيره، ومنها طلعت كذا كاتبه، جمال القصاب، بنت عقيل سوار، شو اسمها بنت استاذ عقيل سوار، تذكرون ميرا سوار، طلعت بقصه فازت في جوائز ما اتذكر في وين، بس يعني في قصص نجاح حلوه فنبني عليها ان شاء الله.
اي بس نوسعها، اعتقد انه تتوسع او تتراكم، التراكم اهم شيء، التراكم مو اهم شيء انه يصير، صح يصير بس يعني مثلا احنا الرواق على مدى السنين اشتغلنا بكل شيء، لكن التراكم من تربطين الامور مع بعض، تشوفين اوه سويت هذه الاشياء بس فقدت هذا الشيء، سويتها دائما اعاده في التخطيط هنا الفيجن اللي احنا نتمنى انه يعني الارت كونسل ياخذ هذا الدور، المجلس الفني، لانه نحتاج ويانا احد يفكر، ولانه مثلا مثل ما الشيخ هلا تقول انه تشتغل ومتعب اكزوستنج الاكشن، انتم مندمجين دائما الفعل والفكر وهذا كل الاشياء مع بعض وايد علينا، فاذا كل احد ياخذ قسم ونجتمع مع بعض ونتناقش اكيد
بيكون شيء واضح، يعني كل واحد من القسم اللي عليه والتخطيط هو اللي بيخلينا نسعى الى
هذه يسوون وزاره التخطيط، هذه وزاره التخطيط
التخطيط الفني والابداعي.
سؤال ثاني؟
تفضل.
Thank you so much for this lovely talk. It's honestly very refreshing having this sort of space for accessibility for everyone. My name is Naomi Ting, and as HR manager, lecturer, and an artist, we can't deny that Bahrain is a flourishing space of talent, creative talent specifically. But it's an honor that Riwaq was able to sort of bring itself up into a space that also allows space for these talents to flourish. That's one thing that was very inspiring, or key points that I would say I wanted to focus on as a question were the points of accessibility and sustaining. So when we talk about the accessibility of the art scene within the country, it has grown tremendously over time. And what we are today has not been where we have been 10 years ago, or 20 years ago too. But when we also talk about how accessible is the art scene for all sorts of circles or communities within Bahrain, this is something that I believe we can definitely tap into further, because when we talk about how the scene is present, or who is it present towards, I think the key point that was mentioned is that we don't want to target specific segments or characters or profiles to actually access this. This is open for everyone. Everyone's talented in their own ways. It's also, we have spaces that are for free and are always there. Yet we don't have an audience coming in or utilizing it, have we really looked into why is it that the people are not sort of approaching it, or is there a way that we can approach the people or tap into them? Because what if they do feel intimidated to actually access these spaces? What if they have the talent within them, but there hasn't been a space or a platform to actually bring that out? And one thing I definitely see in that a lot of people travel abroad to study fine arts, for example, because it's not available here. And yes, we can't limit teaching art only in schools and universities. You can learn it anywhere. Just people have that whole mindset in that I have to take a degree to become an artist, and that's where my path grows. When you can just sit at home, collect a corona and quarantine, and probably paint and realize you're great at doing what you do. One thing I would definitely would like to ask is, first off, in terms of accessibility, not only opening ourselves to different circles and different communities within Bahrain, because we're so diverse, and it's great to be inclusive, but also how can we sort of bring in those sort of talents and hold them when they're intimidated, don't know the right means to approach it, or rely on the very traditional ways of going? And how can we sustain that movement? Because we've seen so many art studios open and close over time. A lot of non-profit art organizations struggle to actually maintain themselves in the market when that shouldn't necessarily be the same.
Thank you. Okay, accessibility. Saham, how are you? I remember you from university.
Oh,
Okay, that's nice. I guess the needs, you need to identify what their needs are, and then communication. You need to know how to communicate with them as well. It's not just about communicating in a traditional way or in a formal way. So you need to know how to communicate all the emerging artists and all those that are looking for opportunities, seeing what their needs are, and then that's how you do it, by, I believe, by identifying what they need and communicating with them the opportunities that are available. Sometimes they're like, but we didn't know this was happening. Or how do we, that's a simple thing, how do we apply? Or what's required? So all these simple things that we might have overlooked, going back to it and redesigning it and restructuring would really have an impact. I was there myself, like I did not know what opportunities were available, and then I got intimidated, rejected a few times. So it's about providing different opportunities, not all, and at different levels. Like it's maybe we could host one for like emerging artists, and then one for the more established ones. We can do it on themes. It doesn't have to be just on a certain, like you said, a certain field or majal. It could open up to different kind of fields. So all these elements together, I believe, would be there. But that's such an important issue to address, because that's when frustration happens. If they can't access or they feel that they're limited out, that's when people begin to get frustrated and complain, and they feel like they're outcasted. And I do not blame them at all, because that is entirely understandable. So thank you for bringing that up as well.
Step away. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you to everyone for holding this symposium. It's very refreshing. My question is primarily I just wanted to talk about, you all talked about collaborations. So the theme in my mind is not to compete with each other, but to compete. And coming from a non-profit, like all the art societies that have been established since the early 80s, I haven't heard much in the last 2 days about the art societies. So I'd like to hear from you about how do you see the role of the art societies, like the Contemporary Art Society and the Bahrain Art Society, who have been around and have a good, especially the Bahrain Art Society, I know had a very good school, and we have a few artists in the room that benefited from the school being around. The role is not as active as it was, but I would like to hear in general how you see them completing your roles.
Thank you, Marwa. It's really good to see you with us. Thank you. I think the role of societies has changed really throughout time. In the 80s, when these societies were established, there were wonderful places for meeting, connecting, networking, producing work, showing. I'm very proud, again, to say that the Fine Arts Society in my country has a legacy from 1982 maybe, or 84. It makes me proud, and I do want to see those societies still being alive and producing work and bringing people together. But the structure has all changed. The landscape of how we show art, how we communicate within art has changed a lot. So
And the social media has changed also,
different
technology.
venues. What I'd love to see in those societies is
Updated.
yes.
We need to update ourselves, like basically the structure.
Become more updated, really. Show stronger works, create different programs. Again, we all work hand in hand. As Sheikha was saying, it's all about communication and collaboration. So the Arts Council, the Cultural Authority, the private galleries, the societies that have a wealth of members, let's step up the.
That's what she's.
Let's see things out of the box.
You are doing already, I think, with the new.
I think
kind
now
of.
there
This
is a
has a
shift now.
big
I
picture.
saw a shift since.
So what is the? You tell us what's the shift. You should tell us what was the shift.
Well, we were in a transitional period. I think gave us the platform for us to transition. But now tomorrow is our elections. So we're looking forward to having.
So this is already something very fresh for everybody. It's like because the impact is there, members are there, and they are all active. So by having the management kind of all the time open, accessible, reachable.
It's important for managements to change.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very important. You cannot have, I have to say this, but when you're heading an art society and you're an artist, you also have to kind of step back a bit and let the others shine. Okay? Very important. I feel if my role changed and I was in charge of an art society, then I would do the guiding, create and do the programming, but I'll step a few steps back because I have to also it's a conflict of interest kind of. So I feel that new management will definitely bring a spark and a breath of fresh air. Yeah? I hope we answered you well. Yes. But we look forward to tomorrow. Good luck.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. You brought a very important point about engaging the youth. And that to me is very, very important. When I need to explain, because we're in classrooms every day, students no longer learn the traditional way of just sitting on seats and being the receivers of information. They need to take part in an experience. They like interactive experiences. So just calling them in for lectures, we need to think of innovative ways. I mean, coming back from Al-Huda now, we saw how, the experiences they created, it was filled with youth. Youth need to be engaged, they need to be challenged, they need hands-on experience. So even if you're talking about something like the excavation, we can create a site for primary children to go in and experience.
Please.
Do something. If you're talking about Bar, take them to Bar. They have to be there, they have to be experiencing.
Feel it.
Yes, and we can create the experiences for them. That would trigger the spark.
I have to also share with you that في برنامج الآثار الصغير, it's just been launched by our new director, Dr. Salman Mahari, who's passionate about archaeology, and he's a lovely man. Like he has a passion for it, and he created this program. But also, I will link you, Sheikha Essie, to him.
So the Minister of
you can
Education.
Start that dialogue. Bring your kids to برنامج الآثار الصغير. Bring them to other. The doors are open. We just need maybe to create somebody.
The Arts Council. This is the solution.
I wasn't putting the.
Yeah, there you are.
That's very important. Going back to the roots, as mentioned, going back and giving these opportunities, that's where you learn. when you actually go out on the field. So thank you very much for saying this. And going back to what Sheikha Marwa mentioned, she has a wealth of experience at the Art Society.
Yeah.
Having these mentors, they can act as mentors for the emerging scene or giving them opportunities. So both points raised are very important, giving the actual hands-on experience.
And also raising the standards of what we see in the art societies here in Bahrain. Sorry, I will be very blunt. The societies, the exhibitions, for the past 8 years I've been in my post, and I can't, the countless of times I go into the art societies. They're beautiful buildings, historic buildings. They've been there for years, so there's nostalgia within the wall, right? But then I walk in, and it's not up to scratch. There's an overload of artworks, and not necessarily all good. And so I think there needs to be some refinements in what we're saying, why we're saying it. Because otherwise I walk into these exhibitions.
That's why discussion is good. Yeah.
So
Discussion, critique.
Is really good. Yeah. But
Shifting
also, will
things,
they come?
disrupting the status quo.
Will they come?
And even the word أنا فنان. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, أنا فنان. There's a lot of responsibility with that word, right? A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, true.
So,
We have another question. I'm sure have enough time.
واليوم ان شاء الله بيكون في ناس خمس واكثر ان شاء الله. انا بعرف نفسي، انا خالد بعرف نفسي من جانب شوي فاضي. انا اشتغلت بالثقافه ك2009 في اكسبو شنغهاي 2015 في ميلان. انا اشوف ان في البحرين في شيء في تالنت وايد قوي على مستوى العالم. وانا واحنا نتوحد كلكم يعني شفتوا تجارب عالميه. يبقى التالنت موجود، الانفراستراكشر ايضا موجود. يعني البحرين تشارك على مستويات عالميه في شنغهاي، في ايطاليا، في جميع المحافظ، وتفوز بجوائز وتحقق نتائج قويه على مستوى العالم. هاي تفضل الجهود اللي يكون فيها الوزاره. اللي ابغى اوصله انه في شغلتين. يعني from my perspective او من وجهه نظري اشوف في جانب الماركتينج. يعني احنا مثلا جائزه فازت فيها البحرين في الجانب الفني اللي بيعرفونها ترى بس الفنيين او اللي لهم النجاح تقريبا. يعني الجانب الثاني اللي مثلا البنك ولا يشتغل في الزراعه ما بيعرفون. البحرين صغيره المفروض كل من يعرف هذا الانجاز. يبقى سؤالي لكم يعني سؤال بسيط، شنو الجهود اللي ممكن ان وزاره الثقافه تبذلها، الرواق يبذلها كNGO او نون بروفيت اورجنايزيشن والجهات الاكاديميه في توحيد الجهود الاعلاميه او التسويقيه للانجازات، يعني سواء كتالنت، ظهور الشباب الموهوبين، وطبعا موجود، الوزاره موجود، الرواق موجود، بس كتوحيد جهود. بعلق على نقطة هاي السؤال، بعلق على نقطة ثانية، في إصدارات جدا جميلة موجودة في وزارة الثقافة بخصوص الترجمة. يعني طرحت نقطة اللغة أو الترجمة. جهود وزارة الثقافة خصوصا جهود الشيخ عمان جبارة في هذا الجانب. في إصدارات يمكن فوق 20 إصدار.
نقل المعارف.
بالضبط. اللي أبغى أوصله إن في رام بين الفن والآداب الثانية أو العلوم الثانية. في كتاب شدني واي ويل ريكومند يعني هو عن بيكاسو واينشتاين. بيكاسو أزال ما تستمعني عارفه، واينشتاين الساين. فشنو الرابط اللي كان بينهم؟ وهذا الكتاب جدا يعني طيب يربط بين الفن والعلوم. طلعنا من النظره هولستيك ليفل نشوف البحرين فيه كله موجود يعني. فبس هاي السؤال يعني توحيد الجهود في الماركتينج. ثانك يو.
شكرا.
Yeah, Art Council.
So the marketing اللي طلع علينا هو الناس نظهر للشخص. How do you do this? It's about empowering them, showing them, showcasing them, giving them the opportunities. مثلا الفرص اللي يحتاجونها, showcasing them through the events in the ministry, through NGOs, through giving them the space. يعني ناس ما يعرفون عنهم نفس ما تطلعت، فعلينا نحن نظهرهم مو بس في الإعلام، بعد نعطيهم الفرص عشان هم يسوون شوكيسنج. هل بشكل مثلا معرض وطني شهري أو سنوي، لازم we identify شنو أفضل طريقة and we do it. بس صدق we need to showcase them not just abroad، يعني بس نوديهم برا عند هذه الفنان البحريني، حتى within البحرين. نفس ما قال البحرين صغيرة ليش ما نعرف عنهم؟ فأول شيء تبي من الداخل عقب نطلعهم برا. هم صدق يستحقون، يعني they deserve it. ولا نجيب أحد من برا ونطلعهم. الغلط إن we promote people from outside more than we promote our own artists. فلازم we identify them and then promote them as best efforts as we can.
بس اضيف سوري اضيف بس على الشيء اللي سويتوه. اعتقد احنا كل شيء عندنا بس نريد ننظر باك. اوكي، فاللي سويته اليوم الفن الاسلامي، اوكي، رجعتوا على قطع موجوده عندكم، يو هايلايتد قطع عندكم، جبتوا بحث ونقاش عن شيء موجود عندنا. الجمعيه البحرين للفنون التشكيليه بعد جابت معرض لاعمال استعاديه او معرض لاعمال، فاحنا نرجع ونفتح حوار نشوف. اعتقد اللي قدمتوه من المخازن حطيته بشكل جديد بطريقه مختلفه، حطيته هايلايت عليه. فاحنا اول شيء نبحث عن اللي عندنا، وهذه الريسيرش الدوكيومنتيشن مهم جدا، التوثيق، البحث، النقاش على شيء موجود عندنا. فاحنا ما جايبين شيء من برا، لكن يعني مثل العمل اللي ناصر الزياني اللي مسويه هنا، هو خيال، هو كله خيال، ماكو لا اكسكافيشن ولا اكو تاريخ، بس عشنا الدور اجين مره جديده. فكل مره ننظر له بنظره مختلفه. اعتقد هذا كل شيء عندنا، بس شلون ننظر له النظره الفريش.
بس حلو طرحك، لان انتقلت من موضوع الى اخر، انتقلت من الفنون الى مشاركات اكسبو الى موضوع الترجمه. فشكرا جزيلا على مداخلتك. صح، في مساحات صار فيها عمل كبير، وانا اتفق معك، التغطيه والماركتينج لم يعطي قصص النجاح هذه حقها. ربما نلاحظ ان هناك دول مجاوره تقوم بنشاط ربما اقل اهميه، ولكنه يخرج للعالم ويروج وينتقل من صحيفه لاخرى، ونحن ربما نكون مقصرين قليلا. لكن يعني هذه لفته مهمه. موضوع الماركتينج يحتاج الى ما اعرف ليش قلت ميزانيات واتفقت على شيء، ما اعرف ليش يعني هاي
يعني هذا شايفين
بس بالفعل يعني الماركتينج تولز وايد مهمه. ما اعرف يعني والله شغلك، يعني مثلا في برنامج صغير كبر صار عمره 7 سنين، ينطلق كل سنه مره، اسمه طعام ثقافه. هاي البرنامج ياخذ فنان وياخذ طاهي، ربما يكون فنان رسام، صار 7 سنوات، ربما يكون فنان رسام، ربما يكون مصمم، ربما يكون مثلا نحات. المهم انطلقت هذه التجربه، كبرت 7 سنه بعد حضور جميل وفي قصص جميله قالت. وانا يعني صراحه صدق انا جزء من فريق عمل الثقافه، واحزن لان تجربه طعام ثقافه غريب. يعني اروح اي بلد في العالم يقول والله احنا عندنا هاي التجربه فود سكوب، صحيح، ومزجته ما بين الفن وبين الكتابه، شلون ما بين الطهي يعني دائما يكون في لكن للاسف هاي التجربه بعد 7 سنوات لم تاخذ حقها الصحيح في
ممكن هي صح لكن تقدم بشكل ثاني. يعني بالشارجه بينالي صحيح جدا،
لكن انتقالها من محيطنا الى نتحدث في بلاتفورمز ثانيه عن موضوع الطعام ربما معكم.
لا، لانه مثلا بالشارجه بينالي كان مدعوين على، كان الموضوع عن التصحر وعن البيئه، ودخلوا الفنانين الطباخين دخلوا بفكر. فهو مو بس هذه، يعني هو هذا جميل، بس اعتقد يراد له عمق. احنا يراد له
يعني in reference to الموضوع طعام ثقافه، سنويا نطبع كتاب يحمل كل تفاصيل التجربه ما بين الفنان وما بين الطاهي، ونتكلم عنه بنصوص مكتوبه ومحرره وبنقد ففي كونتنت، في ليترال
ريفلكت باك، سوي لنا هايلايت اجين على كل واحد ما يبي.
أعتقد يمكن في جانب أيضا إلى الأودينس ديفلوبمنت في هالأشياء، إن شلون نخلي المحتوى، شلون نخلي هذا المحتوى مفهوم إلى الجماهير اللي قاعدة تشوفه، شلون قاعدة تستقبله أيضا. فهذا بيساعد على الماركتينج يكون أعمق، يوصل لشريحة أكبر. يعني يمكن هذا الشيء يدخل في التعليم أيضا في الصغار، شلون نبدأ من قبل.
يعني واعتقد كلنا سفراء حق الحركه الثقافيه في البحرين، يعني الحديث اللي قاعدين نقوله كل واحد منا سفير لبلده، سفير لتجربته. ف we are actually a marketing tool amongst ourselves, so we should always
strongest marketing.
We are, aren't we?
Talk about
الحين في social media and I'm so poor with that. يعني ما أعرف، يعني أنا بس في ظل كوفيد حطيت لي platform for my artwork. I still don't know how to manage it. I'm just dabbling in it. يعني بس بعد إحنا سفراء لتجاربنا، سفراء هاي القصص الحلوة اللي نمتلكها.
شكرا، بس اعتقد الوقت is over. السؤال الاخير بسرعه بس.
عندي سؤال يمكن اول شيء اعرف نفسي من عند وزاره الشؤون الاعلام، انا بتكلم بشكل عام عن الدور الاعلامي، الدور الاعلامي هو المهم.
قلنا اكثر. تعالوا لنا.
الكلام صح، بس الحلقه الوسط احنا اليوم عندنا مركز اتصال وطني في البحرين، من شركه فيصل مع بيان. مركز الاتصال الوطني في البحرين هو المركز المهم. اليوم اي فعاليه اي هدف قاعد يصير في الديره لازم يكون في مركز الاتصال الوطني علشان على الاقل الحلقه توصل تصير اكبر. احنا اليوم خلينا نقول في اشراف الاخبار او في البرامج ناخذ الفوتج من برا البحرين، في لينك يجي لنا يعني لينك ناخذ الاخبار العالميه او الاخبار من برا البحرين. الاخبار شنو هي؟ اخبار فنيه، اكثر شيء هي اخبار فنيه. ليش مو اخبارنا احنا الفنيه اللي في البحرين تطلع برا؟
يلا على يدك.
انا معكم.
ما كان عندكم فقرة اسمها
الثقافة، شيء يخص الثقافة.
رجل، لأن كل هالقصص تنطرح في مثل هذا.
ليش ما نقعد اجتماع مع إدارة التلفزيون؟ اليوم يعني هيئة البحرين الثقافة والأطفال مشغولين مع الشيخة والشيخة هاي وكل التيم ما يقصرون في الحراك الثقافي. اليوم جلالة الملك عمر وصدر قرار المجلس الوطني للفنون. المجلس الوطني للفنون اليوم عنده برنامج جديدة. راح نشوف شنو الأمر راح يقدمونها. المفروض احنا كلنا كاعلام اليوم السوشيال ميديا اصلا قاعد يتحرك اكثر من الاعلام. فالمفروض احنا نكون كلنا حلقه وسط. مساحه الرواق كانت في العتيه كان شركه يعلى عليهم. يعني العتيه اليوم العتيه ميته. طبعا. اوكي بس الويكند شغاله لان المطاعم. كان نكون نتكلم توابع.
نعم.
كانت مساحه الرواق في العتيه هي منوع المكان.
نعم.
الفعاليات اللي كانت تصير. هاي الاحداث البسيطه لازم يكون له الدور الاعلامي يكون قوي. انا اقول لك
رجعت بيان
رجعت في الفنون، والحلو ان رجعت في منطقه هي كانت من اهم مناطق البحرين، هي منطقه الفنون. اغلبيه تجار البحرين كانوا ساكنين فيها. نعم. فيعني حلو انه يدش الرواق.
هذا مشروعنا الجديد ان شاء الله مع بعض، اليوم مع بعض الكل ان شاء الله يشتغل.
يكون في دور مع الاعلام علشان الثقافه البحرينيه والفنون البحرينيه تطلع برا البحرين بصوره احسن. واشكر الجميع.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا للبانلست.